Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. My name is Jeff Rue, the host and the L-tail monsters of this operation. Joining me, the holy magic century of the show, Braden Arbitrary Water Redacted. Hello, Braden.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here, Jeff.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hoot and a holler. Also joining us, the Brian's Journey of Off the Deep End, Chris Zombie Pie Redacted. Hello, Chris.
I like to think that there was someone at Nintendo who was like looking at Toad and was like, how did all these Toads get here? How did they bone? And then was like, oh, let's make Toadette. And that's how Toadette happened.
Just couldn't accept how fungus actually procreates.
Nintendo erasing the legacy of Toadsworth. Fucking, where's Toadsworth? Miyamoto,
Nintendo.
Where'd you put him? Did you kill him? Did you throw him in a closet? You put fucking every single Koopaling into Mario Kart 8, but no Toadsworth.
According to a mediocre JRPG, A Thousand Year Door, in an email, he's supposed to be 60 years old.
Get fucked.
Biological essentialist Nintendo, just displaying their conservative roots. Once again, there must be a boy and a girl Toad. Otherwise, it can't actually work. Because their main concern is how to keep the glorious mushroom race going. And outpopulate those Ainu people. But anyway, we're talking about Nintendo stuff, and in this show, that only means one thing. We're dragging out the N64s yet again. Maybe for the last time.
Literally for the last time. We have played every RPG for the system.
Not true, but we've played the ones that matter for
Paper Mario.
us. Yeah, we lose out on a couple custom Robo games that were never localized, and I've done some digging, okay? And I promise we're going to get to the sumo part of the show, too, by the way.
Hell yeah!
But, the powerful Pro Yaku games that Konami released on the N64, and there were a couple, they have, like your goddamn baseball game baked into them. And then they have this, like, journey mode, this, like, career mode, and they are basically Tokimeki Memorial, but a baseball player. Like, every single one of them. Like, the same broad format, like, you have, like, what you're gonna do every day, and then events happen. The events are basically you playing minor league baseball, trying to get drafted to, like, the Japanese equivalent of the MLB, the name of which I forgot. But they're basically Tokimem games. And there's a game called Getter Love that Hudson released, which is kind of a dating sim, Tokimem-ish thing, but it plays like an Itagaki Street party game. So you and 3 other players are moving around on like a little city map, meeting girls and going on dates with them, but occasionally you play a party game.
It's Hidaki Street, but for dating.
Yeah, it's weird. And if we're going to count Tokimem as an RPG, which one ought to, Getter Love might be a fun thing to screw around with someday. But anyway, past that, like I said, some custom Robo games, Pokemon Coliseum, and
Pokemon Stadium is not an RPG. Pokemon Stadium is a supplement for your RPG.
Yeah, it's like
Pokemon Stadium was cool as a lad with the transfer pack and a copy of Pokemon Red.
Jeff, does this mean if you're going to open things up to like board games, does this mean we're going to play a Dokapon Kingdom game at some point?
I will shoot you both in the goddamn head.
No, because
and then turn the gun on myself.
Dokapon Kingdom is a fucking war crime of a video game.
I want to see it.
I don't want to say that lightly, but like
I have a very specific
what if
distaste
Mario
for
Party,
that game.
but infinitely longer, more tedious?
You guys apparently
and
just don't like
random.
Jinsei games, do you?
I don't like Jinsei games, Chris. I think they're the most dystopian thing in the world, and Japan loves them.
Yeah, the Game of Life is still
Japan
alive
also
and
likes
well.
mobile games, so I don't know if we can trust them.
Anyway, all this is to say, if you're barring Paper Mario and a couple things that didn't get localized, this is it. We're gonna bang out
of RPGs for the PlayStation computer entertainment system.
Hey, my Skype just crashed, so just repeat everything you just said.
Okay.
Dokapon Kingdom should be played.
No.
Why you guys have to be such shitheads about that.
I'm just gonna hang this up again.
Are we gonna put? Are you gonna tell me that I can't convince y'all to check out that one Wii localized Fortune Street game?
I played Dokapon Kingdom. My friends refused to play Dokapon Kingdom with me.
My ex, who had parents at Nintendo of America, came into a copy of Dokapon when it was on retail shelves, I think, and good for this individual because now that's like a $300 game or some shit. So my memories of that game are wrapped up with a former partner.
Okay.
And
how about this?
It's a bad game to be.
I can compromise. What about Cordyceps Saga or Cordyceps in general?
You know, that's one of the highest reviewed Dreamcast games I have on my Famitsu project right now. It's in fact the highest rated one, which is crazy.
All right. I can compromise.
Yuck.
You know,
yuck.
We're already playing a tabletop inspired RPG if we get more Patreon.
Jeff, because you're sick in the head, I am looking at a PS2 copy of Slaughter Up Core 8.
What?
I'm looking at all sorts of weird Japanese baseball games now.
Okay.
Anyways, we played some games.
I just eBay search for like Growlancer, and I'm like, that's too much money.
Just let's get some Idea Factory up in here.
No.
Look, we're gonna buckle down, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we played 3 games. This is our N64 RPG roundup episode, and we got a threesome here. Okay, we're gonna stack them to the ceiling. If we want to say anything about the Basho ending, here's our shot. We have like a minute on the clock.
All right. I am both happy and sad. It looked like Takayasu was finally going to pull it off, but then he had what can only be described as a Casino Sato-esque collapse at the end, losing, I think, 3 matches in a row?
Pretty much.
And hey, I like me a playoff, but boy howdy, he had that. Wakataka Kage was literally on the line. Just couldn't close it.
Congratulations to Wakataka Kage, and you know what? I'll say it. Congratulations to Shodai, who crawled out of a pit to go 9-6 from a real abysmal start. Yeah,
or 1-6.
1-5 or 1-6 at a certain point in the tournament. He basically ran the table at a certain point when it looked like he was totally boned. So that's like, he's frustrating to watch, but it's pretty hard to win that many matches in a row, especially with everything on the line, especially as someone who's identified himself as suffering from long COVID symptoms. So
yeah,
congrats to him for what it's worth.
You have to imagine that. Yeah, I bet Koto no Waka is kicking himself in the back because he was 1 match away. If he had closed his match, he could have been a part of a 3-way playoff.
He could have, yeah. What a wild tournament. Like, as soon as Teru no Fuji pulled out, like, it was just like the door was wide open.
And you know, I was at like Chris Sumo and Sumo, you know, the usual like Jason Sumo's channel.
Yeah.
It's like I've been seeing like a couple of like 2 or 3 people, man, this boss show was boring. I wish Hakuho could be back. It's like
this is the least boring one of these since he left. Like, completely uncertain, upended. Like, the entire ranking chart is going to be damn near inverted by the end of this.
And, you know, a lot of people look like they're healthy. A lot of people look like they're sick. You got Tochinoshin with his first winning record in 8 boss shows. You've got Ichinojo looks good. Looks like he's going to be in the hunt to move up from Maegashira, but I think they're going to give it to Daisho to get the 1 open slot above Maegashira. But, you know, he had a good tournament. Kind of a bummer that Aqua's now going to get demoted, even though this is his first time in the upper division, so he'll go back down to Juryo. And there's some interesting people from Juryo that should be getting the nod.
A fun tournament.
Yeah, and Enho looks healthy, and that's always nice.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Wakataka Kage, he's jacked, but he's not big per se. He's a Chiyono Fuji. He looks like a bodybuilder. I was
gonna say.
So
he's got that bodybuilder shape. But the only thing we know is that Oho from Juryo will definitely get the nod.
Grandson of Taiho, the former record holder for Basho's one.
And then Ryuden took the Jurio, but he's Jurio number 13, so he'll probably have to win another Basho before he gets the nod to go up.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's time for me to talk about VTubers. How do you feel about the new generation of HoloLive Indonesia, Jeff?
I don't know anything about it. I'll let you talk about VTubers. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know anything about Sumo, but you sure did just talk about in a sequence that all of our listeners will hit the skip forward button several times.
Okay, talk about fucking goddamn VTubers.
No, I'm making a point, damn it. Anyway.
Look,
talk about VTubers. No, I'm not dropping it. You talk about
the Nintendo 64 was a video game console codenamed the Ultra 64.
Okay, I have a genuine VTuber question to show off how little I actually know. Could you plausibly, let's ignore the copyright implications of this, rip N64 models and use them as a VTuber personality?
Yes. Because, people be doing that in VR chat.
So you're saying I could be Brian?
You could be Brian.
Or Diaz.
You'd probably have to, you'd have to, figure out how to rig that.
Yeah, the lip flap, I guess, gets kind of complicated, maybe, but...
But yes, I'm sure if you wanted to figure out how to rip the model of that from the hit Nintendo 64 game, Quest 64, also known as Holy Magic Century in Europe, you could do so. I would respect that because no one would understand, no one would care.
Dark Magic.
Also known as Ital Monsters.
Ital Monsters?
L-Tail, I think. Eruteru Monsters. I just wrote this down. The first of these, in release order, was, as we just mentioned, Quest 64. It was developed by Imagineer, and it was published originally by THQ in North America on the N64, June 1st, 1998, subsequently released in Japan and Europe a few months later, and that's it! No other releases for this one. Let's jump right into Quest.
This Quest 64 is considered an RPG.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't have a party system.
Or an economy.
Or an economy. Or a story. Or most of the mechanics you would want to have in a RPG, but it's considered an RPG.
Yeah, it's the first. Listen, if you were a Nintendo fan in the 90s,
it's the first part of a trilogy in a lot of ways, which we'll talk about later.
If you read press releases and press coverage of this game back through 1997 and 1998, two things. One, yes, this was advertised as finally the RPG for us, the dorks, on the N64. And the second note is this was absolutely set to be the main competition for Ocarina of Time. All the early press for this game was this is going to come out before Ocarina. Maybe it'll be as good as the future Ocarina. No.
I found one of those full-page ads in Nintendo Power. It says, "Walk softly and carry a big magic stick. A massive adventure RPG." Then here's the Power quote from Nintendo Power. "Will set the standard for 3D epics." EGM says, "Incredibly sweet graphics."
The biggest lie in all of this is the word massive, first of all.
EGM gave this a 3.83 out of 10, and that quote was actually taken out of context. It says, "The game appears to be the game wants you to believe that it has incredibly sweet graphics, but once you go beyond the surface level, you'll notice some weird, oddly placed sprite work, such as two-dimensional tree sprites and just bland, repeating green ground textures." So they actually gave it under a 5 out of 10. And then Nintendo Power, which is supposed to be your speakerphone for anything that's a Nintendo exclusive, gave this a 6.3 out of 10.
Yeah, State Media couldn't get it up for this. This was post Final Fantasy VII, so the shooting war was already done.
This is around the same time as Suikoden 2.
Yeah, we're so far beyond them being able to really pull this out of a nosedive. At least on the RPG front in North America. If anything, cheat this one, tell me a sweet lie. And they couldn't. They couldn't do it. But I think some of that is an expectation mismatch. Like, I really do. This was my first time actually going in and playing Quest 64. Obviously, it's one of those games that, if you've been around the block, you've heard about. I think there's an AVGN episode. It has a reputation as being a little bit crap. And here's the secret. Here's the thing that I think a lot of people have missed or walked around. This is a game for children.
Right.
Like, this is a children's game, and that's not bad. That's not necessarily a bad thing. This is actually not the worst sort of game in this slot for, like, someone who's coming to role-playing games for the first time.
It's Dragon Quest 1 for a whole new generation, Jeff. Your beloved Dragon Quest.
Yeah, like, I was thinking about Dragon Quest a little bit when I was playing this game, honestly, because
there's parts of it that remind me of Dragon Quest 1 that we've played, because, yeah, there is no party system, so you just control Brian as he navigates one overworld to the next, and that, to me, was very much reminiscent of what we experienced with Dragon Quest 1. I guess the only differentiating thing is this uses a weird, obtuse version of Final Fantasy II's leveling system, and then also maybe the only compelling thing that's really worth talking about, mechanically wise, is this pseudo Final Fantasy VIII magical drawing system.
Or maybe you could say this about the Final Fantasy VIII draw system as well. But as you said, is this like Final Fantasy VIII, or is this what we would now recognize as a hidden object game?
A little bit of both.
I mean,
to be perfectly honest,
because okay, so to punt this one off, it starts a lot like Dragon Quest in the sense that you are a lad in a castle given a call to adventure like immediately. Like, there's no fat on the bone here. It's just go find your dad, little boy. By the way, look for spirits. They'll help you. Oh, okay. What does that mean? I don't know.
Means you press the Z button when there's a place where spirits are, and you can increase one of your elements by 1. Or if you're a speedrunner, you can glitch your way into increasing all of your elements
by a ridiculous amount. There's some really interesting speedrun tactics.
Apparently, the RNG in this game is fixed and based on a timer. So speedruns have figured out, like, with surprising precision, like, where enemy encounters will happen.
Yeah, if you can get to this spot within a certain amount of time, this specific enemy will pop up, and he'll have, like, 20 blues or 15 greens or 15 reds. So I guess we should just kind of break down the mechanics, because there's no story here. I think that one of the reviews that I read from GameSpot, it basically said, Quest 64 is the following. Go to town number 1. Converse with people. Discover evil villain has magical element item number 1 that they stole from Lord number 1. Go to Forest 1. Go to Town 2. Find other unique elemental magic item number 2 that he got from Lord number 3. Like, that's Quest 64 in a nutshell. Move from point A to point B to C to D. Sometimes you'll have to go back to C to talk to someone to do something in E, but it's that format. The thing that takes some getting used to is drawing elemental elements red, orange, blue, and green, which coincide with different sorts of magical things like wind and water and fire and earth. And then also, this has Final Fantasy II's leveling system where you don't actually level up your character. You level up your base stats and statistics based off of what you do in the game. So if you want to increase your HP, you need to take damage. You need to get hurt. If you want to increase your MP, you need to use spells. The nice thing here is that it's not nearly as punishing as Final Fantasy II's version of this. In fact, that's kind of both good and bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked how the game restored your MP as you just walked around in the world.
A nice ability.
This seems like a weird game that probably shouldn't have a random encounter system. It should maybe have real-world instancing, because
especially given the way the battles happen in the field.
Right. Yeah, there's no, like, fade out from a fight, but it does fade in.
It just
just snap zooms. Yeah. It's a terrible camera. Can we just talk about that?
Yeah.
Like the camera in this game is awful.
It's a theme.
It's an early 3D game. I feel like that should be a given. Is hey, the camera in this early 3D game is butt.
I feel like we're going to be talking about camera in each one of these games.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, no, I mean, there's only two really base stats you need to worry about: hit points and magic points. And it feels like there's not enough meat on that bone, as Jeff said, because it's really easy to get hit points, and it's not that hard to use MP. And there just comes a point to where I was never not casting magic.
Oh, yeah.
Using physical attacks was pointless. And so that means that all you've got is this kind of weird magical rock, paper, scissors format. And once you figure out which of these different colored elements, whether it's fire red or earth orange, defeats the enemies you're in front of, it's so easy.
Yeah, that's kind of the game. Like, it is going from place to place, having these very kind of rudimentary combat encounters on your way to the next town where you're told of the next villain that you must find in the next environment, during the transversal of which you encounter more of these kind of rock, paper, scissors fights.
It feels like a fake video game.
It extends all the way down to, like, there's no economy in this game at all. There's literally no money.
Bread to heal yourself from enemies and some townspeople.
The tricky thing is that you get one of every item, but you can't get more. And you do end up getting healing spells, so you end up not needing to use items at all after a certain point because, if the only thing I need to worry about is health and MP, then I really don't need items. And so it feels as if this game boiled everything down to the most core of core mechanics, to the point to where I ended up looking it up. This tops out at about between 10 to 15 hours at most on a good playthrough. There aren't really any side quests. You just move forward. Just move forward.
Yeah.
Just move forward. And sometimes you'll have to make that existential death march back to the town to heal up and save.
You get items that let you go back to town. And even if you get downed, you will show up in the last inn you rested at. So you don't lose progress. It is a surprisingly kind game in that sense.
They don't even have the Dragon Quest sort of, or Dark Souls penalty of you lose some of your currency for that resurrection. It's just
there's no
try
currency.
Again. Right? Yeah, they got rid of that.
You go back to the last save and you have 1 health point, and so that usually means you have to rest up.
World of Quest 64 is a moneyless utopia where you can stay at an inn for free.
It's Star Trek.
People just give you bread if you don't have any. And, the only thing stopping society from progressing is, I don't know, there's a guy.
There's a thief in the woods. Yeah. And that's the biggest threat.
I don't know. Yeah. So mechanically, it's very boring. Graphically, this game is, oh boy. I mean, I got the sense that this game is underbaked. That
it's almost as if this game wasn't finished.
Yeah. It's as if this game desperately needed to ship before Ocarina of Time, because that was the only time this game would have made sense.
Yes.
It was right before Ocarina of Time.
And they pulled that off in North America. I think in Japan it was a little closer, but they still managed to pull that off there. I think the visuals are actually okay. My main gripe with the ambiance of this game is it is so incredibly empty. Like a shockingly empty world. Every town is basically about 4 building. Put a bookmark on this idea for Aidyn Chronicles, by the way. It's basically the same 4 or 5 buildings, and every one of these has got a little inn, and every inn has a second floor with 4 rooms up in it, and all of those rooms, to my knowledge, are empty. It's just very Fallopian. At the beginning of this game, you start in a castle, which is very Dragon Questian. The difference in that castle and Dragon Quest is it had little nooks and corners, and there were some people you could talk to. And I'm comparing this to Dragon Quest. The castle seems kind of pointless because it's big, and there's about 4 people in it. And like I said, it's someone gives you a loaf of bread, someone kind of loosely tutorializes how to do magic, and then someone suggests that, oh yeah, there's spirits in the world that you need to draw from. That's about it. And it takes 5 or 10 minutes to get out of the damn thing. Like, there's a loop of staircases that you need to go down that is like shockingly, pointlessly, needlessly long to get to like the actual
as if there
game.
was going to be more stuff in this video game.
Yeah, that's just not there.
More playable characters, even, perhaps.
So, what have you turned up on this? Because it sounds like you've got a nug here.
Okay, I looked into this a little bit, and basically, originally there were going to be 3 playable characters. There was Brian, there was the healer girl, and I believe there was like a warrior guy. So, there was going to be more of this video game, but they straight up shipped what they had out the door because they needed to beat Zelda to market, because the Nintendo 64 is a weird console.
I think it's telling that this got released in North America first, too. Like, their goal was cash in immediately, and in the only market where this is actually going to cash in, like, ever.
If you lived in Japan in the 90s, you had Japanese RPG choice. I am looking up the cutting room floor wiki for Quest 64. There are there are a bunch of cut maps. There are a bunch of cut text. There are different endings in the Japanese version.
This adds up because I was looking around and there are there are articles from like late 1998. There's one on IGN that says Imagineer are adding new events and tightening some of the repetitive gameplay for the Japanese release of Quest 64. The idea being that it was too easy in North America. So allegedly, there's like slightly different content in the Japanese version of this.
Okay.
That's interesting.
It looks like there is, just looking into the cutting room floor.
Interesting.
I think the only other thing, well, there's 2 things. You could actually talk about how Imagineer is still alive.
Right.
They make mobile
Imagineer,
games.
like, I'm on their website right now, and there's literally a 4-day-old, like, hey guys, we paid our dividends. We want to thank you very much. Bow. They own the IP for the Metabots franchise, and right now they make most of their money doing fitness games for the Switch. They've made Fitness Boxing 1 and Fitness Boxing 2 and just like a series of exercise video games for the Switch. And then also they've made a lot of money off of mobile games, like every Japanese.
Do you want me to tell you my favorite thing that I discovered while looking into Imagineer?
What did you see?
Imagineer is responsible for the Japan-only PlayStation 2 port of Might and Magic 8: Day of the Destroyer.
Oh, I did read that, yeah.
Such a weird thing.
Yeah, didn't they also have a hand in like the Super Nintendo version of Populous and also the Super Nintendo version of SimCity?
They have done a lot of port work.
They did that really good SimCity game. The only other thing worth talking about is how this game got 2 handheld sequels, Quest Fantasy Challenge, which is actually just a rip of Mr. Do.
Hell yeah.
So the first of the sequels is just Mr. Do. And then they made a more traditional JRPG, the third game in the Quest franchise, which is Quest RPG Brian's Journey, which is kind of like a weird pseudo hybrid of those Game Boy Color Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest games meets like Legend of Zelda.
It sounds like it also might just be like a pretty accurate, like it seems like a remake of this game.
Yeah.
For the Game Boy Color.
It was equally poorly received at the time for being, and I quote, too simplistic.
It's no remake of Resident Evil 1 for the Game Boy Color. I'll say that.
Yeah.
If y'all have ever seen that, like a leaked build of that dropped on the internet several years ago, and if you want to see like, yeah, I can see why they canceled this. You technically made Resident Evil work on the Game Boy Color, but at what cost? It's worth taking a look at.
It blew my mind, the hidden object spirit part of this game, because these environments are so like they're colorful, but they're kind of empty and boring to navigate. But then occasionally you'll see off in the distance a weird kind of little pink smudge, and you'll approach it, and it basically looks like a you know when Pikmin die and they turn into a little wispy Pikmin ghost? They look like that. It looks like a little dead sprite wispy thing popping out of the ground, and you'll just occasionally find one of those in the environment, and it's like, ooh, a free point to put into one of these 4 piles. How neat. That's the spirit hunting aspect of this game. I laughed a good belly laugh at that the first time I saw it. And I don't think any of them are in that castle. Like, I looked around, if I missed one.
There's one near the stables next to
one of
my favorite looking polygonal horses.
Yes, that's the one I found. And the horse said neigh. The horse says, like, a horse noise, which is almost the equivalent of petting a dog. Just a bizarre, empty, kind of boring world, but easy.
Not as bad as the internet would make you think.
No, like this is a good brain turn off game in the sense that the numbers go up. It does not assail me with any sort of mechanics or complexity. The numbers just go up. The music is bad. The game looks like shit.
You know, the music, I have a note here, the fight music. I'm gonna drop some stuff in this episode here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this game called Final Fantasy VII. It came out on Sony's PlayStation, and it's got a guy named Cloud Strife.
Spiky hair man.
Spiky hair man.
He's like Goku.
The fight music in this game is such a shameless ripoff of the Final Fantasy VII fight music.
Okay.
Like,
now
if you listen to these side by side, it's
in terms of like the composition of like the way the.
I mean, the Final Fantasy VII fight music, bump bump bump. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. The fight music in this one, it's just like a step or two down.
Oh, you're right.
It goes like bump bump bump. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Bump bump. Like it's the same lick that opens every one of these fights.
Can I have my meltdown now?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we move on to Hybrid Heaven, I want to talk about how this led me to an existential crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I am turning 30 this year. I was raised on the Nintendo 64. Mario Kart 64 was literally the first video game I played. It's not the best Mario Kart, but I remember it fondly. Coming to the realization now as an adult that the N64 is a fucking weird console, both technically and in terms of software library. Just an aberration, and how Japanese developers basically didn't support it worth shit, except for Nintendo themselves and like a handful of things. Like Capcom discovered the N64 super late in its lifespan, and they ported Resident Evil 2, which is once again a fascinating like technical achievement, and Mega Man Legends like 3 years later. And then, you know, they were working on that led to Resident Evil 0 and the Capcom 5, and you know how much we love Piano 3 here.
Big piano heads.
Yeah, but just realizing that like everything I like about the Nintendo 64 is the exception rather than the rule, and most of the games on that system that were not made by Nintendo or a Nintendo-owned studio are just like, it makes me feel like my childhood is tearing off a mask and being like, guess what, motherfucker? They were all Chameleon Twist. Just N64, you got that big draw distance. You got that anti-aliasing solution, which
makes emulation really hard.
Makes emulation really hard and makes a lot of those games look blurry as shit. Well, not on Project 64, I think coming to realize that look is like, oh, this is ugly as shit. Give me warped textures and jaggies instead, please.
Other territories look at America's relationship to the N64. We look at like Australia's relationship with the Master System. Like it's just like
the way
or
people
Brazil's
in the UK
relationship with the Master System too.
Right, just
people
like
they love their Amiga games.
Sure,
they're just like, "Cool, blimey, I love me Dizzy. What's a Mario?
Let me tell you about the ZX Spectrum, boyo.
Oi, me and me Gianna sisters playing Hogs of War.
God, Gianna sisters.
What's a Zelda?
I remember Jeff said something about the music. I ended up looking it up. So the music was done by a gentleman by the name as Masamichi Amano. He has done 6 video games in his entire life. This was his first video game soundtrack that he worked on. He then followed it up with Radiant Silvergun, Onimusha 3,
What the fuck?
Okay.
Fantasy Star Universe, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, and Infinite Space. But also,
shit.
That
he literally followed this soundtrack up with like one of the best soundtracks on the Saturn, like ever.
That's bonkers. Holy
So he
shit.
went
Because the
from
music in this game is ass. Because
making some real bunk ass bad video game music to making.
Here's the other thing that I have come to realize playing these 3 video games is because the Nintendo 64 did not have any internal sound hardware and all of that shit was on the cart. That meant that developers who were trying to cut costs, let's say developers who were not Nintendo or Rare, sure did cut costs.
Yes, you got the
If you want some
basicest of
bunk ass MIDI samples,
It's oof.
there are a duo of games here.
So I know that Jeff is the Sega Saturn defender of the 3 of us, so I wanted to point that out.
Oh yeah, well,
Radiant Silvergun has some good music, eh, Jeff?
It's got incredible music.
Let me just say this about Amano real quick. This is from his Wikipedia. He has created music for many artists' albums, films, animations, videos, and many commercials and TV programs. His orchestral works include the musical scores behind the original 2000 film Battle Royale, Giant Robo, and Stratos 4.
holy
The films and
shit.
TV series featuring his music are are in the genres of action, science fiction, horror, and hentai.
What's hentai? What show is that?
It's like Super Sentai.
Is that like Inuyasha?
But also, this is the guy who made the original fucking Battle Royale music.
Yeah. Goddamn.
Radiant Silvergun, huh?
Just a straight upward trajectory. Infinite Space music's actually pretty kick-ass too. That is a game that hollers off the deep end. All I've got to add to this conversation, by May 99 is the date on this. Imagineer just basically publicly announced they were going to de-emphasize Nintendo 64 development. They developed and released one more game for the platform, which was Big Mountain 2000, and they were the publisher of record for about half a dozen other games after that. But functionally, yeah, from that point, they were a handheld game developer. This was their biggest, I guess, game on the N64 in some sense, and wow, just it gave us the Radiant Silvergun soundtrack.
It's why Hiroshi Yamauchi was like, only losers who live in their parents' basement. I believe he used the term hikikimori.
Yeah, like
RPGs.
Slop for the hikikimori here. It's elf monsters. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this came out in the same year as Panzer Dragoon Saga, as you noted, Suikoden 2. 1998 was not a bad year for RPGs in Japan, and then 1999 was better. I don't remember what year Baldur's Gate came out, but
Baldur's Gate was late 98.
Late 98, and then 99 to get Planescape and Fallout 2 somewhere in there. So, like, the RPG world that this was born into was, like, there was literally no oxygen for this to ever breathe at all.
Western and Japanese, both.
So
this only makes sense if you were a child who literally only had a Nintendo 64. And I rented this game once as a wee lad. I remember this. And I remember not understanding it because I had literally never played an RPG, and they didn't give you the instruction manual when you rented shit. And so I believe that night actually like turned it back in and switched it for Banjo-Tooie, because that game I understood. That game has jumps and butt stomps, and you collect things.
boy. Let's rank this. Let's put it on our silly list and move on. The tier list. Let's go from bottom to top. We've got Secret of the Stars, Draken, Revengers of Vengeance, Lord of the Rings Third Age GBA, Arabian Nights, Lord of the Rings Third Age Console, Ys 3, Soma Bringer, Bahamut Lagoon, Dragon Quest 1, Fire Emblem 1, Ultima 4, Ogre Battle 64, Quest for Gory the First, Grandia 2, Suikoden Episode 1, excuse me, Xenosaga Episode 1. That was a weird thing that just happened. And Suikoden, the best game, apparently. I think Quest 64 hovers right in the mediocre territory, somewhere in the lower half. I'm looking like, I guess I'm trying to stack this against Lord of the Rings: The Third Age.
Yes.
Ultimately.
And my brain cannot make that.
Would you put this above Arabian Nights, either of you?
Yes. It's playable.
I mean, it by benefit of it being like easy and mindless and not just like a grindy Dragon Quest clone.
But above Lord of the Rings: The Third Age.
No.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings: The Third Age has mechanics. It has the Howard Shore soundtrack.
It has a party. As unremarkable as that party might be, it has things going for it.
It has a semblance of complexity.
Okay. I'm going to put this below Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, technically below the line of mediocrity.
Oh, yeah, it definitely deserves to go below the line of mediocrity.
All right. Well, that's where we're sticking Quest 64 then. Thanks for playing. You little freak.
You sad, lonely child stuck with his little stick and his little cape, just running around big, empty environments that are just one texture.
Just looking for dead Pikmin. Just hunting for dead Pikmin. It's weird. Okay, let's move on to game 2. We're basically halfway through the N64 RPG library. Congratulations. Let's see, we've got Hybrid Heaven. This was developed by Konami Computer Entertainment Osaka, specifically, and published by Konami for the Nintendo 64 in August 15th, 1999, in Japan. Subsequently released in the United States and Europe later that year, and that's it. Never anywhere else. Just that N64. Same story for pretty much all these games. That
Nintendo put this shit on the Switch online thing.
This feels like one that it has a better chance than most, which is weird to I guess admit, but like I feel like Konami could like just roll out and be like, here's Castlevania Legacy of Darkness and Hybrid Heaven on this weird whatever that program was called, the expansion pack.
Yeah.
Knock yourselves out.
Hey man, I would stream that. I'll stream Castlevania Legacy of Darkness.
It's like a make good on that first Castlevania game. Weird thing.
You can play as a werewolf.
So
this is a game that Jeff has been lording over us, bogarting us, and holding us emotionally for ransom for a while now.
I'm not that bad, am I?
This is a game I have heard people talk about, like fellow sickos.
This is a game for sickos. This is like an absolute, for those of you in the know game. Like, there's a Hardcore Gaming 101 episode that they did like 7 years ago, just solely on this game. And at the time, I poked it, and it didn't quite get its hooks in me. But over the years, I've like gone back to this a couple times, and I've realized just how not great Hybrid Heaven is, but how like cool and weird and unique it is, just in general, but specifically on the N64. And I think I'm ready to say,
platypus.
I think this is like a top 5 N64 game for me.
What?
Which isn't to say it's great. It's like it's not. This is not a game I'd like recommend to most people, but I have a pretty good time dicking around with Hybrid Heaven.
I mean, Jeff, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but this game doesn't involve collecting shit or have a butt stomp.
Hell yeah.
So I don't.
What the fuck? Fucking what the fuck?
Yo, dude. Okay, I think you might be the most negative on this.
Oh, I hated this game. I thought this was terrible. I thought this game was awful. I at least respected Quest 64 for being a straightforward, like, baby's first RPG. I absolutely hated Hybrid Heaven.
Jeez.
I thought this was one of the worst games we played short of Aidyn Chronicles.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit.
Oh, man. This is going to be fun.
I mean,
I think this game is fucking rad. You can powerbomb a stupid
mechanics,
pig man.
Oh boy,
Mister,
I
look
said
up the
this,
guide.
and then Braden was like, I think this is the first time when Braden knew that I did not like this game. I said, "Is this a secret way of Jeff making us play Shenmue? Because the combat is basically the QTE system from Shenmue. Like all you do is you go up to enemies and you need to pick the correct 3 or 4 prompts to be done with those enemies. Otherwise, the enemies will suplex and murder you."
Yeah.
And
because you looked up the enemy tells instead of learning them organically.
Yeah, if
but
ruining
the
all the
tells
fun
are
for
really,
yourself.
really obtuse sometimes, and like the lack of graphical fidelity means that noticing that shit is almost impossible.
I can do a 1-2 punch combo.
oh my god. Okay, so what? There's
Hybrid Heaven. We should
At
probably
least-
explain what this game is.
We should explain. This has been a comment and a recurring problem with the podcast, which is we don't actually explain the games very much.
Sure, and fair
so
enough.
how about we explain this game?
Hybrid Heaven has been incorrectly positioned as the Metal Gear Solid of the Nintendo 64, and it is not really that. It is a role-playing game with mechanics that are not dissimilar from, as you put it, Final Fantasy II, a Lamarckist use and disuse system of skills, wherein combat is played out in third-person turn-based wrestling fights, where you learn move maneuvers by basically having them done to you by various monsters in an underground lab, which you are in because there is a story in this game that is broadly in line with Konami's brand of like camp in this period. The way that this game is like Metal Gear Solid is the vague political intrigue at the heart of, I guess, the core of this game. But I think the plot of this game resembles more of something like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers than Metal Gear.
Boy, this game is like I got to the part of this game where like they start explaining the story. And it's like alien conspiracies and body snatchers, and you are a Secret Service agent who was brainwashed by the good aliens to infiltrate this facility run by the bad aliens and the hybrids, the human-alien hybrids. And you can punch people in the face, and it will level up your right arm.
It's so granular, like needlessly, fascinatingly granular.
Mid-low step kick.
Like, so your body is broken down into...
Yeah.
Oh my god, the audio. There's so much to talk about. I love this goddamn game.
This is another game that seems to have taken the leveling mechanic. I think this is where you're going, Jeff. From Final Fantasy II, where it's use, disuse. If you use your right hook a lot or your left punch a lot, that specific part of your body will get stronger, not your entire body.
If that body part gets hit, it will increase the defense for that body part.
It has the same downsides of any game that uses this type of use-disuse system, because once you get someone who's resistant of a specific style of attack, there might be an enemy that is really good at blocking or parrying punches, and you have to like kick or do a grapple. And if you haven't leveled up those specific abilities, you're just done fucked. I hate the concept of me forcing to get my ass kicked over and over again for the purposes of getting better at the game. I personally don't like that at all.
I like the part where the numbers go up. I like the part where every single this game has 2 modes, and
you guys I think are over promising that the actiony side of things. We have to talk about how when you enter an area and you start a fight, you have this kind of free movement within this off area, and you have to wait for meters to fill up before the menu pops up, and then you're able to select attacks from a menu of punches, kicks, or headbutts, or grapples, or whatever.
Why are you saying this like it's a bad thing?
You have to be the one to judge, am I in the correct distance, or do I walk up more? Like, there was nothing more frustrating than I queued up an attack, thought I was in range, the guy sidestepped it, and now it biffed it. It's a complete miss. And it's like, great, now I gotta wait for this meter to charge back up again.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
It's super annoying. It doesn't work because it feels like it should be a two-dimensional game. I think this would work better if it was two-dimensional. Like if this was Secrets of Mana's kind of like real-time, pseudo-real-time combat, it might have worked better. Or like Tales of Phantasia. I think this doesn't function at all.
I like the part where I can sidestep an enemy's attack, and if it will physically miss me, and then I can immediately follow up. And the higher your speed goes, you can actually start chaining moves together into combos.
I just think that so I think the problem is the system, it's unique, but you gotta have so much patience with some of these enemies, and it's even more frustrating when you go into a fight, you're about to learn a new move, you just sit there looking at these menus trying to learn a new kick move, but then like 20 minutes into a fight, 30 minutes into the fight,
how are your fights taking 30 minutes?
You just got to try the same punch over and over again to get that new move. Like, it sucks.
I don't know how fights are taking you that long.
I was power grinding purposefully.
So you ruined it for yourself the same way you've ruined Ogre Battle.
He won't admit it.
I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying that this game. I'm just
Min
saying
Maximus over here.
Bad.
Min Maximus over here taking the fun out by forcing himself to optimize.
I'm just saying that I think that this is not you guys are making this game seem like it's way more functional than it actually is.
I mean, look,
you can double tap to dash.
Yeah, like, you know, this is like Jeff has played this game a little bit before, but yeah, if you're taking a lot of hits, you're already kind of screwing up. And that's not because like the defensive tools are very good. You should be like creating space constantly. Like you should be closing that gap when you're like ready to go.
There is some Tekken shit in here.
Yeah, like you can
sort of.
Yeah, but like one of the worst controlling Tekkens ever.
Like controlling space in this game actually breaks this game, which I think is like actually a pretty big critique of it, is once you kind of get how this all works, the game actually is kind of broken. Almost to the point where you could like very well just like stop gaining necessary skills and abilities, because you'll just wind up becoming like an evasion monster. Like that's, I think, the actual problem. That, and like I can't be someone who's complained about Final Fantasy IX, I guess, and not say like, yeah, combat can be a little slow when you're like doing this sort of dance around someone forever, trying to create this space that I'm talking about. And it's, you know, maybe kind of a bummer that in order to like learn how to do a pile driver, for instance, you need to have one.
You have to be pile drove.
And it's not even like 100% that you'll learn moves as they're done to you. There's some element of chance around that that's kind of a bummer. However, it's cool. Like, I don't know. Mounting an honest defense of this is kind of difficult, I suppose, because
I don't think this is a great game.
No, it's not. But when you set it in the library of the N64, the weird shit that this game is doing is like very welcome for me.
The intro is fully voiced, Jeff.
Yeah, that was the thing. I grabbed my spouse because I've watched the intro to this game several times, and I was like, you have to see this horrible thing. Because, and it's not as bad as I remembered it being, but it's pretty damn bad. Like the compression, whatever they had to do to get this voice sample stuff to fit on this N64 cartridge is desperate. The opening scene in that apartment room is not as bad, but once they get into that subway, it's just like people are talking like it's like Charlie Brown parent levels of bad.
Yeah,
it's shocking.
Yeah, but there's a naked man and he takes a shower.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, this is why people compared it to Metal Gear Solid.
And they do the Metal Gear Solid 2 thing, I guess. Like, there's a little head fake at the start of this game that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're immediately thrown into a vague political intrigue scenario kickoff of this game that's, like, confusing. And I guess another criticism is it probably takes a while to start explaining why you're walking around these kind of empty hallways fighting Shoggoths for like the first hour of this game. Like there's very little context given for what you're doing. And there's actually very little given in the instruction manual as well. I was thinking maybe there was a little more like, you are Agent Diaz, or like whatever the hell. There's like actually zero story information in the instructions at all. There's some explanations of some of the mechanics, and there's descriptions of like the first handful of monsters you fight, and some tips on how to take them down. But that's pretty much all you get, which is kind of crazy. They were just, I guess, gonna trust you to sort this out yourself. So there's an interview that IGN did with Yasuo Daikai, who was the director on this. He basically spilled that the main player character is actually Slater, this agent who was recruited, and his wording was Diaz is fake and Slater is the real good guy, and didn't elaborate on that point. But if you were following press at the time, I guess that's like the reveal has been like kind of ruined for you already. I can't help but wonder if Slater is a reference to Metal Slater Glory, which was a HAL adventure game for the Famicom. But yeah, like goofy sci-fi political intrigue thing that is light window dressing for what amounts to you wandering around hallways,
punching weird pigmans.
Yeah, like oddly detailed turn-based wrestling combat. Like peculiarly detailed. Like they get like, you know, it's a game where you can do a Boston Crab and a running bulldog, and there's like grapples and reverse grapples and counter moves. Countering actually kind of sucks because you don't have any control of what moves are going to come out, and like leveling up your head offense, so when you learn headbutt, you can do better headbutts, and space management, and knowing that, oh, certain enemies, when you knock them down, they're going to drop healing items. So I don't want to just kill this guy quickly. What I want to do is make sure he winds up on the ground as many times as possible. Those low sweeps. Yeah, I built out a combo. So you can, there's build a combo stuff in this game at a certain point when your speed gets high enough where it'll just chain 2 moves for you automatically. And I was just kicking people in the shins. Just that left low kick, right low kick, bop bop was putting a lot of people on the ground pretty quick for me. I don't understand how someone could not like this.
Did you really like it when you noticed those weird floor pads that spawn infinite enemies?
I did, because you can grind, which I was not doing. This is not a long game. Is the other thing too.
They're also not enough. There's not enough variety to the enemies.
I mean, that was
a huge problem that I have.
No, like here's the other thing: is like all the cool stuff we just talked about, and I say cool because it is cool. Is like the other part of this video game is literally just like basic ass platforming and puzzle solving.
This is where I feel like, you know, as someone who is primarily on the PC at this time, this is where we need to make a mention of like, yo, that first Tomb Raider game was super fucking important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Surprised that never got ported to the N64, honestly.
Well, it's okay. We have Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, ZP, you should play that game.
I have played that game, and I will happily play that game, but not before the Emperor's Tomb. Yeah, it feels like it's trying to do some sort of version of Tomb Raider's like, hey, here's an open area environment, and occasionally you'll need to punch things in the face, but like platform a bunch and grab the 3 or 4 things in this environment that we need you to get to move to the next version.
There's a set piece where you are chased by a giant monster, and it's not very hard. But the camera can sometimes get in your way.
Yeah, once again, this one's at least got a C down, just gets that camera right behind you, like immediately. Like this game came out after Ocarina of Time, and to borrow a Jeff Gerstmanism, Mario 64 basically showed the world how to make 3D games, and then Zelda showed people how to do 3D cameras. That's like maybe a little glib, but I think things got better when people are like, oh, right, you should just have a way to just bop this behind you, like immediately, like instead of slowly having to pan this thing around or whatever the hell. So this has that at least, but there are moments where you're trying to, particularly when you're using the little, so you have a phaser. So in addition to walking around the environments in this game and getting into impromptu wrestling matches, there are little robots that will harry you. They'll shoot at you. They'll blow up on the ground. And you can fuck with these with a little gun, which is like very context sensitive and weird. Like when you pull the trigger on this thing, it just makes a little just the most pathetic little sound. And sometimes you'll point that thing at an object that is some distance away, and it will continue to make a little but it's actually interacting with an object some distance away and will cause it to explode. And you're using that to shoot these robots, in advance of your progress through the world. But the camera controls in that, if you're needing to look up or down, are actually kind of shit. You've got a very limited range of motion that you can sort of bob your head left, right, up, down when you're looking around with that thing. It just feels like kind of an underbaked... Like they wanted a way to just like interact with object, but couldn't find a neat way to do it.
Yeah,
so...
and see, this is where I have to point out, like, the lack of variety really dooms this game. Like, you see the same pig people who are grapplers, the same blocky monsters that are kickers, and just, like, those weird plant monsters that can just fuck off. It's just... And then you're in the same kind of industrial park-looking environment way more often than you like. If there was a good, compelling game here for you to try things out, you really can't because the enemies have their own specialities and combos and things that you need to do in order to get past them in an efficient way. Otherwise, you'll just get suplexed into oblivion. I just feel like the complete lack of variety in almost all of this game is where I felt like it was a slog. And history will prove me correct because Jeff Gersman gave this a 4.1 out of 10.
That's the crazy thing. This is the lowest reviewed of these games on GameSpot. God damn it, I did it. I thought about it and I still did it. And I think that's insane. I think this is better than both of the other games we're talking about today by like a wide margin. Which again is not me saying it's like practically Mario 64. It's definitely not. But there's so much that was attempted here. This is also the first of only a handful, I guess, of Japanese games that supported the expansion RAM cart for the Nintendo 64. Which, it's kind of weird. I mean, like, I don't know. This is just the story of, like, not a lot of Japanese devs gave a shit about the N64, particularly as late as 1999. But, that 4 megabytes of RAM versus 1 gave that system something like new legs and, allowed for the big shitty levels in shitty games like Banjo-Tooie and Donkey Kong 64 to work.
Banjo-Tooie didn't use the expansion pack.
Oh, it's a crappy game, so it makes sense. It's a crappy base system to run. I don't know. Poo-poo. Pee-pee doo-doo.
Oh, Jeffrey. It is now time for me to pull out my knife.
Say it.
Can't hang with it.
Go straight for the kidney.
Yeah, go for it. Do it. Say the thing.
Jeff Rude, my friend, I love you very much. However, the NTSC Nintendo 64 is a better console than the NTSC Sega Saturn.
Huh.
I'm sorry, you're just gonna say Burning Rangers. Like anyone in the fucking world played fucking Burning Rangers? No one played Burning Rangers. Sega, like, Saturn nostalgia is even more pathetic than Dreamcast nostalgia, because Dreamcast nostalgia, you at least have, like, the sad end of that.
Jeff talk about how the Virtua Fighter 2 on the Saturn is the best fucking fighting game of this generation.
I don't even believe that. Tekken 3 has more... Look, I'm not crazy. But here's the, like, I don't know.
Mr. Bones.
Even North American Saturn people were not exclusively North American Saturn people. Like, when you were in for a penny at a certain point, you started importing shit, like, very early on. Like, that, because otherwise you weren't getting, like, it was a place to get expensive versions of fighters and stuff.
He's actually forming a thesis, Brandon. Look what you did.
Thesis of, actually, if you modded your system and imported games, it was good, actually.
Yeah, tell me about how Astal is better than Rayman.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't really like Rayman generally, but I'm not that crazy.
Tell me about the Saturn version of Symphony of the Night and how you can play as Maria.
That's such a weird port.
The transparencies are all fucked.
Is this where we have to listen to a lecture about fighting vipers and fighters?
This is where I talk about Power Slave. Oh, yeah.
Look, we don't need to pick on the Saturn to acknowledge that Hybrid Heaven has got some like real shortcomings.
Oh yeah, no, Hybrid Heaven's like a weird fucking game, and it's more interesting than it is good, but that is literally our motto.
But yeah, this game supports the RAM expansion cart, and it's like so poorly implemented, it's kind of shocking. Like, I understand that standards for shit like frame rate were a little different in the 1990s, non-PC world anyway, but like it damn near cuts the frame rate into a third of what it was. It looks notably nicer and cleaner, and like the textures are a little less like smear, like industrial metal smear across like Skunk Dungeon, but it runs like absolute shit. It's so bad, and it like extends to the opening cutscene, which you think maybe like the thing that everyone is definitely going to notice when you turn on the run good mode.
640 by 480, 3 frames a second.
I would encourage people that are able to go to youtube.com and look up footage of this game running with an expansion pack, because it's just a poorly thought out thing. I guess another fun note, this was originally sold as something of kind of a budget title in the United States, in the sense that most N64 games retailed for around $60 new. Some of them went for $80. This one went for $50, and not only that, but it included a $20 rebate that you could turn into Konami for either Castlevania 64 or Goemon.
Ah, man.
One of those games
God
is all
damn,
right.
Goemon's a good game. Fuck
Yeah.
y'all.
I ain't got nothing against Goemon.
Yeah.
You want to tell me how, like, you want to say that this is a top 5 N64 game? Give me fucking Mario 64. Give me fucking Ocarina of Time. Shit, I'm not even a Majora's Mask guy. I'll put Majora's Mask ahead of Hybrid Heaven. And then you got Rogue Squadron. You got Goemon. You've got Banjo-Kazooie. I'm not a Banjo-Kazooie fan. And I'll take a mediocre Mario RPG over this.
I can't speak too much because I still have a fondness for Conker. So
hey, it's got a clever writing. You know, you've
the
got.
Poop sings a song.
I like Perfect Dark. I think it's a game defined by compromises. Pokemon Snap is a game I got a lot of nostalgia for.
I'm that asshole. I'm F-Zero X, Sin and Punishment, Super Mario 64, I suppose. And then past that, I'm
Dude,
like...
that Doom 64 game with that claymation style is weird and crazy.
Here's my other thing. Like, am I going to sit here and like actually say Ocarina of Time is bad? No, I'm not a lunatic. But there's better versions of it out there. To wit, I think I would rather play every one of these Rare games elsewhere. Right?
Yeah.
Rare Replay's a good game.
Yeah, like all this stuff plays better personally. I don't think it's personally. All the shit plays and runs better on the 360 where available. So, like, it's the bespoke stuff that I really give a shit about for the N64 at this point. And Hybrid Heaven is one of those bespoke games. Like, there's nothing like it really anywhere else. Shenmue is an interesting point, and as people probably know, I'm a broken person, and I love Shenmue. So, like, maybe that's what it is. This, like, weird, deliberate, campy wrestling game with RPG mechanics. Like, it's like they tapped into my brain. I don't know. It's not perfect. It's maybe not great. It is definitely good, though.
I enjoyed my time with it the most of these 3 games, which I don't know what that means anymore because I am broken. And at one point while I was streaming Aidyn Chronicles, someone's like, you need to stop. You need to stop playing this.
Fucking, I can't.
And I'm like, but I need to see more.
We should rank this and get to that game.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm not going to read through this whole list again. I'm just going to say a game right dead center of it, which is Soma Bringer. Right now, where would this go relative to Soma Bringer? I say it goes above it.
I say it goes above Soma Bringer.
Democracy reigns. If you guys can get Quest for Glory in 4th on this list, then I'm going to democracy this one up, god damn it. Sorry, Chris, I love you. Is this better than Bahamut Lagoon? I think this is better than Bahamut Lagoon.
I don't.
Okay. I'll take what I can get.
Okay, wait. No, you know what? I want to hear Jeff's argument for why this is better than Bahamut Lagoon.
The setting is better. I prefer the strangeness of this to the tedious, repetitive, overhyped strategic combat of Bahamut Lagoon, which is only floated by its reputation as a late good import SNES game, in large part, beyond its actual merits. I think Hybrid Heaven actually over-delivers for the platform it is on and its circumstances.
What is above Bahamut Lagoon?
Dragon Quest 1. Which,
it's not better than Dragon Quest 1.
I'm a reasonable person, and I wouldn't put it above that.
Do you want to put it above Bahamut Lagoon?
I'll put it above Bahamut.
Yes!
Lagoon.
I'll take it. I'm pushing this one to the moon, baby. Buy it. The new number 9 on the list is Hybrid Heaven. Congratulations, Konami. Just cleaning up on this list. If I could, I'd put you at, like, number 3.
What? Okay, never mind. Speaking of not number 3.
Speaking of games that only we would cover, I wrote this in the Hardcore Gaming 101 Discord. I think we're the first, maybe last, podcast that has ever discussed this one. It's Aidyn Chronicles, the First Mage. Let's talk about this title. It was developed by H2O Entertainment, those purveyors of quality, and published by THQ, those purveyors of quality, for the Nintendo 64 on March 14th, 2001 in the United States of America. It was subsequently released in Europe a few months later, and that's it. It was never seen again. I guess a hilarious note on that is there is at least one interview where they're talking about a sequel to Aidyn Chronicles, and just the possibility of that existing is kind of dark. This is the last original endemic to the N64 game that was ever released. Pretty much everything after this that came out was like a conversion of an existing IP or like a sports franchise.
Yeah, it's like Pokemon Stadium 2. There was the original version of Animal Crossing came out for the N64 in Japan. Madden.
Yeah. Hamster Monogatari, but that's got a PlayStation version. I checked.
Conquer came out, I believe, the week before.
So I decided to do some research, and I think the interesting thing about this game is how it came from a studio, H2O Entertainment, that had done 2 Tetris games prior to this, and then they made this game and basically fell off the face of the earth, like disappeared. The only real name that I found associated with this game was the lead writer and designer, Angela Ferrialo, who has since gone on to become a university professor teaching game design.
Huh.
Okay.
At Sarah Lawrence College. And she teaches coding and game design.
I wonder what she would have to say about Aidyn Chronicles, if asked.
Well, you can sign up for one of her classes
what
and maybe bring it up.
I would be very tempted to send this individual an email, but also I don't know if this game is worth, like, here.
This game is so goddamn mediocre.
This video game is, you can see the lines, you can see the ambition at play. Like, this is a very ambitious late N64 RPG. Correct. And also it's slow and tedious and boring as shit.
And it's ugly.
It runs it has expansion pack support if you want to make the resolution better and the frame rate worse.
It's got really questionable audio.
The sound design's bad.
This is one of those late era N64 games where the version that I saw and was able to get from Blockbuster, it was a black cartridge rather than the standard silver cartridge.
It is trying to do the traditional. I mean, it is a Western style RPG more. I think with kind of JRPG-ish combat.
Boy,
it's got skills.
It's got skills.
It's got experience. You can buy stats and skills with experience.
So there's an IGN article I dug up from 1998, which, as far as I can tell, could only be referring to this game, because it was an RPG that was being developed by H2O Entertainment. And it was originally going by the name Gnomon Quest, for what that's worth. But a name attached to this, it was headed by Chris Klug, who was the designer of Dragon Quest, not the JRPG, but Dragon Quest the board game, like the TSR board game. So you get some of that, let's say, late 90s tabletop mechanical flavor.
There's a little bit of that.
Which is to say, kind
stuff.
of some Xena aesthetic.
Yes.
And sort of a tabletop role-playing game sensibility in terms of how leveling and shit works.
You can build... Once you get past the incredibly slow intro, you can build a party.
Oh, that intro!
Of like 4 or 5 different characters, and you can pick 3 of them. Like there's the thief, there's the white mage, there's the black mage, basically, and there's the warrior, and then your main character, whose name I already forgot.
Aladon. Here's the funny thing: usually in a game like this where they'd give you the ability to name your main character, they would have a pre-filled slot and then have the cursor generally sitting on end, like right there. But this one does not. It starts on A. So it looks like it's already filled in. So my character wound up being named, like, for lack of actually me remembering, Avalon A. So it was like Avalana. But then I poked around and it turns out, no, the canonical name is like Abaddon or Alabon or something like that.
Abaddon's
Aladdin.
Yes, it is. Aladdin, yes. So Amagon here, the main protagonist of Aidyn Chronicles.
Scourge of Armagon.
Jesus Christ. The intro to this game.
I'll play Abaddon.
The intro to this game is so goddamn long and does so little except show off. So it's a weird mix. I was playing this in a very real N64, by God, which is to say not, and toggled on the high res mode. As we mentioned, this is an expansion pack game, and it's not there's a surprising amount of detail, I guess, in parts of the environment that they're working through. It's just all of the models are really fucking ugly.
Yes, because they are trying to do realistic looking models on the N64, or realistic-ish, like human proportioned models, let's say.
And it ain't work.
It's a butt. It is muddy. But yeah, the intro to this game is it is long. I feel like a lot of JRPGs have long intros, but this game's intro feels like exhausting in a way that a lot of other RPG intros don't, because the walk speed is slow. There's a lot of talking and none of it is good.
Oh my God.
There is this and Ogre Battle, somehow the most text in any N64 games. Except the writing in Ogre Battle is pretty good. And also, it's the only N64 game I know of, besides Conquer, that uses the word shit. So that's points right there. But yeah, your character, Plucky Squire Boy, he's poisoned. He's got to go on a quest. You get to pick your party members. But here's the thing: that whole endeavor, like getting to the part where the quest happened, the call to adventure happened, was literally 2.5 hours for me.
Yeah, that's pretty much my experience.
It's bad.
The thing that really blew my mind about this game, there like several things were like not good, but it's the combat specifically that just seems to be so poorly executed, like that even if the rest of this game inexplicably held up, it would sink just by virtue of the combat.
It is so anemic. It is like Quest 64 in as much as like your characters have a range of movement and an action during their turn. And you use the C buttons to like pick items or spells or whatever. But it's a whole lot of like, you go up to a rat and you press the A button to attack, and then you have to watch this animation, and then it's like the rat dodged your attack motherfucker, because the base accuracy of this sword is 45%.
Yeah.
Unmodified by your skill.
The one thing that I will say, I know that you said that this game doesn't have a story. It has a lot of lore and a lot of weird, obtuse.
Oh no, I think this game does have story. Like as
it
far
has
as...
a lot of like. Well, it definitely has a lot of times where you don't do anything and you just watch like a pseudo N64 movie play.
Yeah,
there's
you
that.
gotta click through.
There are cutscenes in this game,
and they tried. That's
there is an attempt.
Impressive that they tried.
Like I cannot fault this game for doing what perhaps the hardware and the expectations of the audience, and like far beyond that, it is. I'm going to compare this to Turok 3.
Okay.
So Turok 3 came out, I believe, in 2000. So, late model N64 game. Turok 3 is trying to be a Half-Life style game on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, scripted events and all that.
Yes, there are scripted events, and there are like set pieces in Turok 3. And like there are two different characters who get slightly different weapons and like traversal abilities. And by God, it's not great, but it's impressive that they did this on the N64.
Some things are better not done.
And it's also just like, hey, maybe the limitations of this hardware are more than some kinds of games could handle. And this is one of them, because like there was clearly thought put into the mechanics and the writing and the storytelling. Like I wouldn't be surprised if someone wrote something resembling a lore Bible for this game.
It's just like you said, it's just chunky. It's slow, it's sluggish. Even running this on modern technology, it feels like this game has got like 5 scripts running in the background that's too much for it to handle. And
have to run around that stupid castle looking for the party
Jesus
members.
Christ.
Yeah. Can we talk about this, please? How you create a party?
Yes, please. I'm getting bogged down here, but like in terms of empty ass environments, like Quest was pretty bad at this, but this game is beyond the pale. Like it's actually like a pretty surprisingly big world they've built in some sense for the N64, but it is like devoid of anything in it. Like the amount of actual interactable NPC sort of stuff you'd expect from a JRPG of this scale is wanting. The thing it kept reminding me of, and this is like a specter that will haunt this podcast, by the way, for a little bit, was Ultima 9, which is a series that, had 2D roots and had towns with NPCs, and Ultima 9 decided, what if we took that world and built it out into like full polygonal 3D, and they did that by sacrificing like towns were just reduced
everything?
To like, this town is just 3 buildings and there's 3 individual actors in this town that walked around, and that's it. And the castle is like that whole note, basically, just like sustained. It's just a big empty 3D environment. Like when you compare it to even like the castle of Super Mario Bros, at least, or Super Mario 64, there's at least interactable stuff in there and surprises.
How space is used.
Yeah, this is just...
You will go through all of these empty rooms that are like fully modeled, like they are like, hey, this is clearly a sleeping quarters or whatever, and you will find like one bag that has some gold in it.
We have to. I feel like we've danced around it. We need to talk about how this game actually plays. So it's a mostly third-person overhead action game. Time progresses in real time. There's a day-night cycle even. And
combat is turn-based.
Combat is turn-based, though.
There's a sneak mode. You can try to sneak past enemies or like surprise them or something.
And like some of your stats. And I was never great in terms of figuring out, like, the base stats of the characters will determine your turn order. And then when combat starts, you're transported to, like, a separate screen with all sorts of different terrain. And then you move each party member a distance.
Yeah. It's like Quest.
To
where
borders.
You have a movement range, and you can make an action And they're clearly trying to translate some of that tabletop.
And then it has
turn-based
that weird
combat.
Final Fantasy Tactics thing of where, depending on your terrain or where you're at, back attacks, front attacks, or if you're above or below, that'll determine or have an impact on the damage and the effectiveness of your attack. And then there are certain characters that are better if they're in the sun or at night, where it's like, oh god, I'm playing Eternal Sonata and this.
Oh god, you can't escape it.
And then, there's an area of effect with spells, so you'll see that weird little red border if you use fire attacks.
Mm-hmm.
You can increase your skills by buffing them, and there's like an AoE splash damage effect. And if anyone dies, they're permanently removed from the game. Like, so if characters die, they're dead forever, right?
You can't revive them?
No, you can't. I had one die because I was just being an idiot. But if any of your party members die, it's like fire.
You have to reload, basically?
No, yeah, it's done. It's done. They're dead forever.
Huh. I never got that far.
Indeed, I did not either.
Like, it's one of those things where, like, who is this game for?
That's a great question.
Yeah. This is, in 2001, a little game called Final Fantasy X came out. And even, on previous generation consoles, there were still, some late PSX bangers, your Chrono Crosses and your Vagrant Stories and your, I think Suikoden 3 would have been out in 01 or 02.
I mean, the Dreamcast was basically discontinued about the time this came out, but even there you had like Skies of Arcadia and PSO and Grandia 2 anyway. And then like on the PC side, which I think is what this was actually trying to crib, you have like all of the BlackRock or whatever the hell, like all those Infinity Engine games. Like I think this is like Icewind Dale 2 territory, but like that's the target audience for this is like grognard shit. But
there is a quest journal. There are side quests. I killed some bats in a cellar.
The thing about the combat that like really blew my mind was like, so enemies are out in the environment, so they're not random encounters per se. And to initiate these random encounters, you have to more or less be on top of these enemies, and then you get dropped into this separate environment that you load into. But in theory, you're like right next to this rat or whatever. But then combat will start, and that rat will be like 50 fathoms away. And the first like 2 turns of combat are you just like closing that gap, and it's like that sucks. That's like one of the worst things I've seen in this series so far.
Remember to say that during the Eternal Sonata podcast.
Honestly, that's what it kind of reminded me of. But did Tricrescendo play Aidyn Chronicles?
No one played this game.
I mean, clearly no one did.
Like, we are the only people on this planet who have thought about Aidyn Chronicles the First Mage in the last 20 years.
It's one of those games where you go on to something like How Long to Beat, and the sample size for determining how long it takes to beat the game is so pitifully low. There are 6.
There are 6 people who have logged completing Aidyn Chronicles on How Long to Beat.
So take that with an enormous grain of salt. However, the things those 6 people have reported are very frightening, because this is purportedly north of 50 hours in some cases. Imagine playing this game for 50 hours.
Ogre Battle is at least good.
There's at least like some crunch to it that feels like, and I'm the person who liked that game.
There's interesting story parts of Ogre Battle.
This is like some Lloyd Alexander ass go learn to be a man shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Young, yes.
And
oh my god, that's an amazing
you're welcome. Going back into that castle and getting your like go find your folks in this castle to build your party, which you didn't get to talk about, ZP, and you should. I was passing through that village on the way. Again, the attempt at building out like a big fantasy world is like kind of admirable, but the amount of memory they had to actually practically do that in leads to it just being like, oh, this, you know, market town outside of this castle is basically 2 done buildings, one of which is like your requisite inn with like the same 2 NPCs in it. Like by this time I'd already talked to like half a dozen farmer people on my way back to the castle, and they were already looping lines. Like similar dialogue was just already cropping up, and I was like, okay, all right. That's like, I don't know. Darkstone is a more impressive game than this in some sense. But yeah, recruitment. ZP, did you like recruiting members of your party?
Absolutely fucking not. It's such a weird decision because you could, in theory, leave that building with just your fucking self, try to explore the world and get your ass handed to yourself. Like, it's such a wild decision that, you know, here's this key component of wander around, talk to random people, no clear markers in terms of who is going to join your party, who's just there for window dressing. And yeah, if you leave that castle and try to hoof it yourself, you're going to die.
Yes.
There's like a weird cryptic jester that will give you hints about what you need to do. You go to the wizard school and everybody gets to say their true name except you, because Alaron's a mute because he's the player character and he doesn't. And then you find out he doesn't have a true name, and then that's a plot point. But I don't know, man. Did you have any promising characters that you enjoyed recruiting? There's that sorceress.
The spicy sorceress.
Was it Arda?
Who is like your shit-talking frenemy, love interest feeling character.
Yeah, that was Arda,
I
right?
feel like that's the name.
Cool.
And then there's the thief girl.
Yeah,
who's basically Imoen.
The problem with this is that, I don't know about you, but like, I almost preferred controlling the game with fewer characters, because boy howdy do battles just last forever when you've got a bigger party.
I gave throwing knives to the thief girl, and it's like, wow, each of these throwing knife hits do 2 damage. I'm glad I picked the thief for my party, the accurate AD&D style thieves where they're just garbage in combat.
And yeah, you just have a lot of party members that don't really do anything, or they do shit damage,
Or
and then the enemies
get
get to
spells
do
for them that do damage.
But the enemies always seem to be like they're like one step ahead of you. It's a bad game.
Bad game. It's a pretty impressively bad game, honestly. I had not seen its equal in some time, and it not for want of ambition. Again, just very like the timing of it is off. The game itself is kind of a slog. The look of it, like just garish, ugly shit throughout. It's something else. Is there anything else to possibly say about Aidyn Chronicles? Like, I went into this kind of expecting generously like a budget PC RPG feeling experience, and I feel like it even kind of fell short of that.
Pain.
Just pain.
Just pain. Just pain. Just like, boy, they sure did fucking drop the N64 off a cliff in 2001. Just stopped giving a shit. Working on that dolphin.
I need to look up when the GameCube was actually announced. Publicly announced as Project Dolphin in May 1999. So
yeah.
Now let's light up a candle.
Yeah, let's see. 6th Gen. E3 was when they really blew it out. There was a press conference in Japan in August 2000 where it was pretty well detailed. So I would say August 2000 is like the
Was 2000 the Super Mario 128 demo?
Shit, when was
that? Was that at E3 2001?
That was at a Space
World.
World. I think.
That was Space World.
So that might be this August 2000 event.
Okay.
What was the Mother 3 E3 demo? Was
97 or 98?
Let me check. 97.
Wow.
Huh.
Weird.
Imagine if Mother 3 had come out on the N64 in the 90s.
That demo was good! Fucking blew my goddamn mind.
Hey man, I remember the trailer for Donkey Kong Racing, a game that never had any gameplay come out for it.
Weird apocryphal games. Project Hammer. Anyone remember that?
Do
Yes, that was a weird first-person
game.
shooter serious game, right?
It was a Wii game where you could swing the Wii remote around like a hammer.
Apparently
And
that just got... Okay, so Mother 3 for the N64 was 96. Project Hammer, from what I hear, Nintendo was like, this looks bad. You're going to get another year to make this. And then they brought their second demo. It's like, still bad.
It was one of the Reggie games that he basically... It was that and like Disaster Day of Crisis. I think he personally was like, I hate this. This is not coming out here. Which in the case of Project Hammer meant it's not coming out anywhere ever. Go to hell. Aidyn Chronicles. We must deal with this thing. Should it be ranked? Have we appropriate? Apparently it's 60 hours long, so we could do another episode on Aidyn Chronicles.
Listen, man, I played like an hour of Somabringer, and that's still ranked.
Fair point.
Somabringer's probably like 50 hours long too. I wonder.
Yeah, but Somabringer at least is like colorful.
There's something there.
It has good music. It is impressive that it is a DS game.
Yeah, I'll say this. Aidyn Chronicles gets us a Western RPG on this list again. From H2O Interactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the new Tetris, the game with that rant.
Hey, I liked Tetrisphere at the time.
It's no Pokemon Puzzle League.
I prefer Tetrisphere to Pokemon Puzzle League, personally.
You know what? Do you know what's the best Tetris game on the N64? Wetris.
Wetris is cool. Wetris is very cool. Wetris has big, like, demo scene Amiga-ass energy to it.
Yeah, but those I know everyone's like, you're just saying that because you like the weird water physics, but it's like it uses it well in a puzzle.
What about the Disney Tetris game that Eureka made?
Oh, Magical Tetris Challenge, I think. Did Capcom publish that?
Yeah.
Like an encyclopedia up in that horrible brain of mine.
The most useless knowledge about a console that has maybe less than 20 games worth playing.
Aidyn Chronicles, the First Mage. It is not one of the games worth playing. I would like to play. I would throw out an initial offering. Right.
So starting at the bottom.
Is this game better than Tecmo Secret of the Stars? Yes.
Boy. I think you could make an argument that it's worse.
It is more tedious.
It's more tedious.
But I feel like Tecmo Secret of the Stars is
visually worse.
Is a nightmare. It is like peak lazy Dragon Quest clone. Whereas this game is just like way too ambitious for its own good and running on hardware that does not support it.
It barely functions.
Looks and plays like ass.
It barely is able to move without gasping for air. It's like this is a reference that maybe two people listening to this podcast are going to get. There's a scene in Poltergeist 2 where the dad in Poltergeist 2 drinks water that has like weird zombie eggs in it, and then there's like a baby that's growing inside of him, and then he pukes the mutant monster out, and it's like this weird like amphibian monster that's like and it just came out of his mouth. Or a better, less obscure reference would be, it's like that guy in RoboCop that crashes his car into the vat of acid, and then he's just like, help me, and it's that's Aidyn Chronicles. It's just this wreck of a video game that's flapping around, begging you to murder it and put it out of its misery.
I will ask the panel this. Is there a world where you could see someone enjoying this video game?
No.
Is there a person out there, a person who will show up in a YouTube comment somewhere going like, yeah, man, I remember Aidyn Chronicles. That was my favorite game growing up. They don't make games like they used to.
No.
I don't think so. Make games like they used to is...
I mean, you've seen the comments where people are like, yeah, Blood 2, fucking great game. And I'm like, what are you fucking smoking? Blood 2 is fucking awful. Blood 2 is okay.
Just to get back to our previous comment, where's Hakuho?
Yeah, just reprobate lunatic people.
It's like that. It's like that.
I
Final
would be
Fantasy
willing to
11
put this
comic that I read
below
about.
Draken.
Because
Because Draken's at least funny. Draken's enjoyable. M beat Draken.
I don't know why.
No one here will ever beat Aidyn Chronicles.
Yeah, I bet the number of people who have actually beaten this game walking the earth right now is like one hand.
I bet the number of people who have finished this game from start to finish is in the triple digits. And most of those were testers, or like that guy the YouTube guy whose goal is to play through every N64 game.
Oh man, when he draws this, God help the beast 71 or whatever.
Please bless Mento when he gets this for his Nintendo 64 feature.
Boy.
Yuck.
And Mento deserves better.
I think this is better than Tecmo Secret of the Stars by virtue of...
All right, Jeff, you are actually now in the position of being the kingmaker.
Is this better or worse than the worst game?
Oh man, I mean, Secret of the Stars is shorter.
Oh.
Notably shorter, for what it's worth.
Oh.
You know? Like, nothing in this game made me laugh like Bad did, or the cat who's like, I'm a cat.
Got cat pilled, got dog pilled.
Dog pilled. Dog pilled alone makes Secret of the Stars.
There's no dog pilling in Aidyn Chronicles, the First Mage. There's only like decent, I would say B tier, like 90s fantasy writing.
Yeah. That's I think we gotta put it below Secret of the Stars.
Okay.
I really do.
All right.
Congratulations to our worst video game, Aidyn Chronicles the First Mage, for being so slow and so boring that it's worse than a video game that was clearly put out, made in like 6 months by a bunch of people whose previous credits were making a football game.
Yeah, it's not good.
I would venture to say it's among the worst games on the Nintendo 64. Honestly, like the absolute lack of fun factor alone.
It is, yeah, you're right. Walking through that castle, trying to find the people to recruit to my party, that's basically like flying through rings.
Yeah, and you don't know which ones are actually useful.
Surprisingly enough, there is a well-detailed walkthrough of this on GameFAQs.
You know,
Thank
if
God.
I have some free time during my summer, I'd rather pour hot wax on my fucking balls than play that game.
Please do neither.
You don't know me.
Have an
I
open
do.
mind, you know? Okay.
Anyways.
Bit.ly /
Oh, there we go.
OTDE rank. There's the list. I'm definitely not borrowing a template
It's a
from
list.
anyone. Yeah, so we will keep that publicly updated going forward. That is bit.ly / OTDE rank. It'll give you the ranking. We've bulked this out. We've got our best game ever so far, Suikoden 1. And then at the very ass end of this list, Aidyn Chronicles the First Mage.
Our 20th game,
20,
apparently.
yeah, when you roll up everything. That's how she breaks. That's this episode. I guess we need to determine what is coming next. I think, practically speaking, the next thing that we're probably going to wind up doing is the Eternal Sonata wrap-up job, basically, where we'll be talking about the end game of that thing, which means I need to beat or get through at least a lot more of Eternal Sonata. So that is functionally our next episode, but that's well advertised, and that'll probably be around in a couple weeks, larded in between other Deep Listen stuff. If we would like, we could probably set what we're going to put on the horizon right now after that.
Isn't it
Okay.
fan pick?
Do we
Don't you
want a
pull
fan
from
pick
fan?
or a me pick?
I mean, if your pick happened to align with stuff that we have on this fan list here.
All right, Braden, I have the only nerd way to solve this. I've got a D20. Am I rolling for even or odds? Do you want even or odd, Braden?
Even.
Even?
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay, I'm
So it's
picking.
your call. Yeah.
Okay.
It's your call.
I want not to spoil our Eternal Sonata episode, but I would like to once again play a game I am enthusiastic about for this podcast.
Uh-huh.
And we've got several weeks that we could hack at this one too, so it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. We have several weeks, and I'm not going to ask you to finish this, but if ZP can do fucking Quest for Glory and shove his agenda onto this podcast, then I am going to do the same. I am going to nominate Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven.
Oh, boy.
Probably the best of the three Might and Magic games that use that engine.
Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. So here's my question. Do I already own this?
If you own the bundle of the 6 games on GOG, you do.
I think I might have bought that in old GOG days. Yes. So I just have a folder that's just my old GOG.
Yeah, I have
library.
it looks like I have the Might and Magic 6-packs limited edition.
Yep, that's the
For those
one.
of you that are listening right now, you should consider getting this now because it's on sale for $2.
Yes, and guess what? There are some. I would say 3 of those games are still fucking amazing.
Are you referring to the
Might and Magic 3, World of Zine, and 6 are all like very good, very playable games.
I forget, was there a way for you to transfer your saves from one game to the next?
World of Zine is just 2 games that you can go between. Like, if we wanted to, we could switch to World of Zine, which is a little more DOS flavored, a little more of that DOS boot. But Might and Magic 6 is the game I have more firsthand knowledge of.
What if I played like 3 or 4 hours of one and then 3 or 4 hours of the other one?
No, I think we make a choice now.
Okay.
I think they're both quite long. Also, like World of Zine is literally 2 games.
Yeah, and these are not brief games. That's probably.
And Might and Magic 6 is the biggest of those games.
I mean, I've been kind of hankering for some wizardry flavored shit. I've been playing a lot of Etrian Odyssey 4 lately.
Okay, you want some grids in your life?
Some grids.
Okay, then do we want it? Okay, then how about here's the compromise: Might and Magic 3, Isles of Terra.
Oh right, 6 is not grid based, is it?
Shorter game. It is grid based. Yeah, 6 is not grid based. 6 is free roaming, real time, FMV. Digitized character portraits of real people.
You want to play
6,
The Mandate of Heaven?
Yes.
I'm fine with.
Okay.
I'm fine with
down.
6. Yeah.
I'm down.
Let's do Might and Magic 6.
All right.
I will send you the link to the fan patch.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That
I forgot
gives
that there
you,
was
like,
a fan patch.
a quick save button and
this
turbo
works
button.
well with the GOG version, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because like I said, I have this game on GOG. If it weren't for the fact that CD Projekt Red was kind of
A questionable corporation.
questionable developer and corporation, I would feel better about using GOG.
Yeah, I was pretty all in on them for a while until they started espousing some beliefs on the internet.
This is the only service where you can purchase Might and Magic 6.
Weird.
Yeah, it's not like we have a choice.
Okay.
Now, Heroes of Might and Magic, that's a different ball game. We should get into that ball game though.
Okay. We're gonna wrap this episode then. Yes.
Hey, Jeff, I also bought the Journeyman Project Part
Why
1.
would you do that?
Oh yeah, baby, because I like that rush.
Thank you for tuning into this installment of Off the Deep End. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out. If you've got questions, comments, prayer, concerns about any of the titles which you've learned about today, or upcoming plans, or if you just want to have someone to shout at, you can do that at inquiries@deep.lol. You can also contact us on that Patreon that we have. Well, how do I get into the Patreon? It's easy. It's very easy. You go to patreon.com/deeplistens and you kick in literally any dollar amount. That'll get you into a Discord wherein one might shout at us.
We're getting scarily close of needing to play a certain game that shall go unmentioned.
unlimited
amount of suffering will come once we hit 20 subs on there. So push us across the board. It's appreciated. Our Twitch streamers, you guys, what are you doing on Twitch coming up?
Outside of the Giant Bomb Community Interns Run, I am going to be doing a new series looking at the Pixel Remaster of 6.
Huh.
Final Fantasy 6, sorry.
I am playing games made by Ukrainian developers.
I'll also possibly be starting a new, related to current events, I will also probably be oscillating between playing the Pixel Remaster of 6 and then also Lightning Returns.
Yay.
Looking forward to doing our ridiculous Final Fantasy music episode and being yelled
Sherlock
at.
Holmes Crimes and Punishments.
Which you've decided to bite more than you could chew. I shouldn't say that. It's just you've decided to do something that fucking, God bless you, Jeff. Translating shit.
You know, I've put in the time. I'm going to defend my bad decisions. Speaking of music, special shout-outs goes to SuperSex420 for providing us the podcast theme song, Halfway. This and other great tracks are available from SuperSex420 on Bandcamp.com. Just search for SuperSex420. That is it. We're wrapping this up. Thank you to the Nintendo 64, the horrible Trident-shaped controller, the weird RAM module that you needed to buy. Put you away and put my Saturn back in my entertainment center after I finish Hybrid Heaven. Good. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. And remember, there's no such thing as cheating in Hybrid Heaven. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Off the Deep End was recorded and edited on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Nisqually or Nisqually people, who have lived on and stewarded these lands and waters since times immemorial.